John's up.
Sure. Before we do the pledge, real quick, just some ground rules for those in the public. The public will be muted when the board is talking, but for each agenda item that requires a board vote, the public will be unmuted and given an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Participants wishing to comment must state their name and must speak one at a time. And in addition, if you're watching this on live stream, you can submit questions by email to info@eastscotian.org. Again, info@eastscotian.org. And Susan can pause during public comment period and ask those questions. If you are live streaming the meeting while you're on this call, please turn the volume down so we don't get feedback. And that's turn it to Marty.
Okay, let me call the meeting to order and begin by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody please follow? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. David?
Yeah, I'd like to ask that we recognize a moment of silence for those who go in harm's way every day on our behalf, our firefighters, our emergency medical services, our police, and those who serve in the military. Thank you.
Just for anybody who likes these things, this is the Tuesday, July 7th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. For those that happen to have the agenda, there is nothing until we get down to item number 9, which is the approval of the minutes and the treasurer's report. I have reviewed the minutes. So I think they're fine and dandy.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of June 16th, 2020 as submitted.
Second the motion.
Any comments or questions from the board?
No.
From the visitors? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? 5-0, John. Thank you very much. The next is the treasurer's report. Mike, do you want to lead off?
Sure. Thank you, Marty. John, thanks for your work on preparing. There are quite an extensive number of batch reports for disbursements over the period. Yeah, John, with regard to that, treasurer's report includes 2 pay periods for the 18th and the 25th. I missed it, so shame on me. I missed it.
Yeah, shame on me too.
Let me ask John on, I guess this really has to do with batch 5 of 11, page 3. The expenses associated with the trail. Is everything at this point in time, can you, any breakdown of the current expenses of what's coming out of grant fund versus what's coming out of the bond fund?
I'm confused about batch 5, page 3, because that's all general fund stuff.
Oh, you know what? I have notes too close together. Just a general question. I don't have the batch.
The general question is, so actually, yes, we are now, in fact, just like an hour ago, Mark Gordon sent out an email to the group saying all invoices have now been received, or are either in here or have in this treasurer's report or have been paid. So we're wrapping things up. Susan is in, is ready to start processing the paperwork for F and G to get to submit for grants. And so I'm going to be out of town the next 3 days, but hopefully, next week or so, we'll get those two, all of our expenditures submitted to DCNR as well as Chester County and get as much funds as we can from those 2 grants.
Okay. All right. Any comment or any thoughts at this point in time? And I know relative to the conversations we've all had about the impact of CV-19, anything in particular of note as we pass now through June that is starting to show itself, EIT or anything else on the?
No, not, I mean, what you're seeing in EIT is still, like, we're like $250,000 below where we should be. But as I explained at the last financial report, that's all just because of the change in the deadline, that Q5 remittances, which we only now starting to receive.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, you will see it when we'll really be able to, by about five or 6 weeks from now we'll have a better sense of the scale of the problem.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, the end of August, Joe.
But I would say, Mike, I mean, some of the other indicators, I mean, real estate transfer tax is going to be under budget, no question, but it's not falling off a cliff. Permits are going to be under budget again, but they're not falling off the cliff. So, you know, there's cautious optimism,
Yes.
I think, compared to the worst of the gloom and doom that I was talking about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, and I see that to a degree. It somewhat mirrors that where I put my hat during the day too. So at East Bradford. So, question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. This is a minor one. Our residents that partake of the Applebrook Golf and pay the fees for that, is that a net zero?
Yeah, the pass through.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then can you explain a little bit about, it's batch 8 of 11, page 1, that has to do with sewer operating reimbursements. I think it was something like $91,000.
Yeah, sure. And so every quarter, so first of all, we charge payroll to the general fund. So if the public works guys are doing work on a sewer system, you know, repairing a pump station or digging up the line or whatever, that originally gets charged to the general fund. So we have to charge back both the labor and equipment costs to the sewer fund every year, every quarter. So this is the second quarter one. But in addition to that, Mike, like, there's a formula for not just the public direct costs of public works, labor, and equipment, but a portion of my time, a portion of Rick's time, a portion of the accountant's time, and even a portion of the utilities in the township building. You know, some percentage, it's like 6.7%
Sure.
of all of our, you know, utilities gets charged back to the sewer fund. So there's a big spreadsheet that we have to develop and update every month.
I appreciate the explanation. I kind of knew some of that, but I also share that with my colleagues as well, so that you educate us all. Overall, I didn't have any. I see Higgins, of course, we had the traffic light disruption from this, I guess it was a tree damage or an accident, and it looks like insurance picked it
Yeah,
up.
Route 3 and Roseville got damaged in the storm, and we got the work made whole from that.
Yeah. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything specific. I appreciate your work on it, and my colleagues may have questions. I'll open it up to anybody else.
I'm good.
I have a couple of questions. So one of my questions is, I'm curious about the top step. It's not complete. Wagner's was supposed to finish the stair treads. I would submit that I don't think that they should be paid until that stuff is taken care of.
The top stair tread was ordered through Armstrong. They back ordered it. We have not paid Wagner's. The check sitting on my desk, and I won't pay it until everything's complete.
Do you have
Excellent.
an estimate, Mark, when that might happen?
Friday.
Great. And so as far as the trail expenses are concerned, John, could you possibly just give us an approximate how much has been spent to date on everything? Just total approximate
For the
for
from
the
soup
whole
to
trail.
nuts.
Soup to nuts for the whole trail, what the township has spent.
I wish I had that spreadsheet
Just
ahead of me. What was it? Something like 2.5, 2.4 million?
2.4, I think, is what
2.4 million,
we had
yeah,
come up with.
has been spent. We're still waiting on some of that money will be reimbursed from the F&G grants. But again, to clarify, for the F&G, when I say F&G, I mean from Route 352 to Line Road.
Okay.
But then the work that you're seeing out front of the building from Enterprise Drive to Route 352, all of that very, you know, obvious work, that's all grant funded. So that
That's all
will
grant
be,
funded.
actually, we don't pay those invoices until we're first receive a funds from PennDOT.
Right.
So, so anytime it says on your treasurer's report, like grant funded these Myers, that means we've already received the money and we're just essentially a pass through.
Very good.
Let me make a comment here on that. You brought me up to date on the latest estimate
Mhm.
on the trail, but I don't think everybody knows about that. Would you repeat that?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I feel like I might miss something, but Michelle, you have something?
I have your papers.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. This I can do from here. Yeah. So, oh, here we go. Okay. So as of like a few weeks ago, we'd incurred about a little over $2 million. And when it's all said and done, I expect us to incur $2.8 million, excluding the segments C through E out front. And also there would probably be another $200,000 to $250,000, let's say, in grants from F&G. So we're getting back to that $2.5 million of the township's total out-of-pocket costs. And that's it. I mean, there's no more township out-of-pocket costs when we get to that $2.5 million range. Again, all of this work you're seeing out front or by grants, and we don't even pay those bills until we're first made whole by PennDOT.
And
Does that answer your question, John?
No, I wanted the total cost. Your estimate.
Oh,
of
oh,
the
total cost.
The
of
total
trail.
cost.
the pages is the pages.
Again,
Something.
there's a spreadsheet. There's a presentation on
9.3.
9.3. Is that
I think
something
it's
right?
9.3.
I think right now we're looking about 9.3 all in. But again, after we get reimbursed from the grants, we're only talking about 2.5 million out of the township's pockets.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
And as a reminder too, most of those costs, the township's costs that we're not reimbursed for are what we call soft costs. So those are engineering costs, and primarily engineering and the acquisition of the easements.
Okay, and then, John, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to ask batch 2 of 11, page 5. There's the highway materials in the amount of 13,402. And it's a batch 2 of 11, page 5. The first line, and it says capital reserve fund. Is this one of those amounts that we're going to be?
Yeah,
we've already been paid. And
no. This is for F&G, but this is something that we can submit for reimbursement from
Oh, good.
Chester County or DCNR.
Okay, great.
Anybody else? Any current open questions?
No, we need a motion from David.
Yeah. Go ahead, David.
I'll make a motion that we graciously accept the receipts and pay the invoices as submitted.
I'll second.
Comments or questions from anybody?
Yeah, I have a question.
Who's that?
Okay,
This is Russ.
That's
I
Frank.
guess Russ Frank. John, will you be able to put this breakdown of what is the grants are going to be paid for versus what the township and township residents are going to have to be responsible for in a format that's easily readable?
Yeah, well, actually, Russ, I can email this to you tomorrow, but we have on our website, it's under the 2020 budget page. There's a PowerPoint presentation. It's like four pages long. That gives a very kind, I hope, easy to understand overview of how it works. But I'll make sure to email that to you tomorrow. And
Now, that's going to show the actual expenses or what was projected
well,
back in the
it was
original
what we
plan?
did. We prepared for it's what we prepared for the 2020 budget.
Okay.
Those materials. I mean, the numbers haven't changed in any material way since then. So.
Right. Then my other question is on this trail. I think I noticed that township employees are working on this trail. Is that correct?
So the stuff you're seeing, what we're calling segment C through E. So from Enterprise Drive and Reservoir Road to 352, that's a contractor. Alan Myers won the bid for that work. You saw township employees working on what we call F&G, which goes from basically throughout the book. But that work, as I said before, is now finished.
Because I was going by the where the Friend School is, or the Friend School there
Yep.
on the corner.
Yeah,
And east, yes.
Are they? Is that they were township employees, right?
yeah, on that side of 352, yes. That work was finished probably their work there was finished 2 or 3 weeks ago, though.
Right. So the time that those guys spent on that job, that
So-
gets allocated to the part that we have to be responsible for.
Well,
as the
a
township?
couple of thoughts on that one, Russ. First of all, we use that as matching funds, so that so we've been tracking all of those labor and equipment costs that we've incurred, and those are matching costs that we can apply towards the grant reimbursements. But remember that the public works guys would have been on the job regardless. It didn't like drum up a whole lot of overtime or anything like that, so they would have been on the job regardless. You know, maybe digging up a sewer line or cleaning inlets. So it's not as if they were doing work that the township wouldn't have incurred a cost regardless, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where my questions were coming from. Thanks, John.
Anybody else? Okay.
Marty, it's Michelle. I just need to specify that I want to make sure that we're holding the check. As far as paying the bills are concerned, paying the bills, but holding the check for Wagner's until it's complete. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Has the check on his desk,
Perfect.
and so $8,000 is waiting on him to finish that script.
I have no other questions.
Okay, everybody ready to go? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? 5-0, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Pardon me?
Thank you, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm way out in left field.
Yes, you are. That's why we want to see your face one of these days.
Then I get excited.
I won't be excited, but I'll be pleased.
You were really too much, Mike. Oh, God. There's no old business, and there is several new business items. The first is, and I'm not sure if we didn't already solve this problem. Did we consider have we considered the format for the township meetings?
We haven't discussed it in the public forum. We kind of mused about it in our board department heads session on yesterday at 10 a.m. just to share what some of our thoughts were. But now's the opportunity to share it in public and see if we have a consensus of how to proceed.
Maybe I phrased it wrong. We did not reach a consensus, did we? Or we didn't even try to do a census, did we?
We cannot reach a consensus until we discuss it in public.
Well, people have
Okay, so
views.
let's go.
Well, I'm ready.
There are several options. There's several options to proceed. We have the authority to continue through the state to continue in a virtual setting. The staff, John or Rick, can tell us how far, but I think through the end of the year we can at least continue in a virtual format if we choose to. We're in the green zone now. We could open it up to public meetings with the social distancing and masks. So with the three options that we have are to continue to Zoom virtual meetings. We could do a hybrid because we have the technology at the township where some officials and staff could be in attendance in the meeting room, and the other supervisors who choose to be virtual can all participate contemporaneously. And then we can, then the other option is, to open it up completely to public. I think those are the three, guys, right?
Well, you can't. One thing I don't think you can open it up completely because if nobody else, it's me. I am not ever coming to a meeting. I'm virtual all the way out until this thing is done.
That's fine, and I think we all respect that, Marty. And
that's what I appreciate that, folks. But I'm just saying, I think that you have to be at least a virtual, because every time you have a meeting, I'm going to have to do, well, when the computer comes, which is pretty soon, I'll be Zooming everything.
good.
So I don't know. I think you're stuck on virtual. Everybody else can come in one place. I don't know what you want to do about the residents. But,
well, why don't we do this, Marty, if I may? why don't we ask each supervisor what their immediate thoughts are personally, and from their capacity as a supervisor, what their feeling is that they're feeling comfortable with. I'll start with me. I'm simply
That's
going to
fine.
say, I prefer the Zoom for the time being. I'm going to remain virtual. As long as it, and as I said the other day, when there's a vaccine, unless there's other authority that tells us otherwise, I'm probably going to be, as a senior citizen, I'm going to respect the current environment, and I will probably continue to participate virtually through the Zoom medium. That's me.
I'll speak next, if that's okay. As far as I'm concerned, I am willing to, and I think that it's time that we start showing an interest in getting back to what was our previous normal, and that's attending board meetings in the boardroom. I have no problem doing it via Zoom for the time being. As far as opening the building to residents, I think that we have to be mindful of the fact that at any point, our green status can be revoked.
Yep.
And perhaps until we are in the all clear, perhaps we should reserve resident participation in person until the all clear. But I would prefer to at least start getting back to what was our prior normal. And
Michelle, there's at least two of us, that's Mike and myself. You're never going to get back to normal, what we called as normal, until this thing is over and there's an all clear signal.
Marty,
it's not going to happen. It'll never happen. So you always.
This is
I don't know about that. Pardon me?
This is my opinion, Marty. My opinion is.
No, I'm not disagreeing with your opinion. I'm saying that I don't know how you can do that.
Well, here's.
Michelle, let me, Michelle, let me take a shot here. You know, what Michelle's trying to say is she would like to possibly participate in the public forum in the meeting room, and with a hybrid arrangement, we can do that. We can have supervisors such as Michelle, as she's indicated, in the meeting room. And if residents are interested to show up at the public meeting with the proper social distancing and precautions with masks, et cetera, the presence of a physical presence, I appreciate what Michelle's trying to do, and she may be the front runner for that, for the board to towards a normalization process, as we might call it. But in the meantime, those of us that are uncomfortable, we still have the ability to be virtual,
exactly.
But active participants. That's the gist, right?
That's exactly it, and that's my opinion. And
I just didn't say it right. That's correct. We have to be virtual, but you can have you're a hybrid is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I don't know about David. I don't know what David is.
What do you guys? What do you think?
Where's David on this thing?
Yeah, I frankly think it's somewhat irrelevant whether we're in the board meeting or on Zoom as board members, because we can interface and dialogue. My biggest issue is how we make sure that the public can interface with us, and I'll just go with the state guidelines on that. And as I said, I'm comfortable with masks and social distancing coming into the meeting, but I'm not sure of the utility of doing that personally. So,
John,
I'm for the hybrid. We four of us are here right now. It's we're socially distanced. I think we're fine. At the same time, I respect the circumstances of a couple of you who don't want to come in, and I don't blame you a bit. I like coming here personally. I feel better, so I'm for the hybrid. As far as the public goes, that's another question. That's one we could talk about all night. Is it possible we could allow the public to come in and phone in?
It's possible.
I don't know. I'd have to. John or Ricky has to answer that question, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, we could do it. I think the issue is, I mean, I guess we could have a camera
Biggest
set up.
issue with the public is limited amount of seats we have in the room.
Yeah, limited, and then, I mean, we could set up I guess, another camera that was facing the audience, so if they wanted to speak, it was clear who was speaking. I mean, we could probably cobble something like that together.
The danger there is if more than, 19 people show up, then we got an issue, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a challenge.
Well, yeah, that's a very good question, because if we know in advance that there's going to be a room full of people, we're going to know that the minute that happens, you can't have a meeting any longer. At least there in the township building, you have to provide accommodation for these people. Now, that brings up an interesting challenge, Ricky. If we get to the point of having some of these meetings that we've postponing until, till we can have them, we better be thinking about the school. And the question I have is, and I thought about this a bit, is the school going to be available at all?
Right now, the school is not allowing people in. I would add that Westtown is having a meeting on pre-building, and they're meeting in the Public Works building.
No, they moved it to Cheney. They're
Cheney,
actually
okay.
meeting at Cheney, so.
Yeah, they did move it to Cheney. I saw that in the paper. I'm just saying that the idea, we're good as long as we don't have people to kick whomever we have in the township building. The question becomes is what's going to happen if we either find out ahead of time or find out that night that there's more people than the township building can accommodate. That is really a problem, because it looks like we don't know what we're doing, and we know exactly what we're doing. We can't have a meeting unless everybody can attend it.
Rick and John, what's our largest space that the township, is it over in the Public Works and the
Yeah, I mean, we could probably cobble something together over there with, I don't know, what do you think, 40?
If 40, 50 people, the only
Yeah.
challenge is the restrooms. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Porta
I
potty.
mean, there's a bathroom, but it's not handicap accessible.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot about that.
But based on the options that we've identified, it appears that combination Zoom public meeting, which is, I guess, what we're doing tonight, is
Right.
the one that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And it basically, it just centers around the public.
I think we're status quo until, we can open up and accommodate people in the township building.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that you're going to be status quo, so to speak. And I appreciate what Michelle was saying, but I think what David's alluding to, until we get all 5 of us in the building, you're kind of virtual with a hybrid. You're a hybrid is what you really are. Whether it's 1 or 2, Mike and I are probably going to show up for the first time together, based on the way Mike laid it out. Because I'm about the same place he is with respect to that. So I would think that the most you're going to have for a while is 2 or 3 in the building. I don't know what you're going to do at that point, but you're not going to get more than 3 at the most. And and that you got to Zoom because everybody's got to be in part of the meeting. So you're going to have some there and some back home. So I would call it a hybrid, and I think that's just going to be till basically we get out from underneath this thing.
Can we just agree right now that we're going to just kind of continue the status quo pending further information about the status of social distancing and so on?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do we have to have a formal vote on that or no? And
Sounds
then
like
as
you guys reached.
as
Well,
far as our ABCs are concerned, though, we have to make a decision on that. My
Well,
personal opinion is.
Let's wait a minute. Let's do this first.
Yeah,
What you're establishing is the meeting policy for the building.
right.
And it
I
would
think it's a hybrid. I think you just call it a hybrid.
which is we refer to as a combination Zoom
Yeah.
/ public meeting.
Yeah.
Was
Yep.
AT members or board members or staff could be in the building, or they could participate over the phone, and the public calls in. So it's appropriate to make a motion to identify that as a preferred option, and then we communicate that to the ABCs.
I think as far as the ABCs, you probably should do it I was gonna say the easiest way, but I think you might run into the same problem if anybody wants to, doesn't wanna come. So to make it easy for everybody with respect to whatever they wanna do, you probably wanna Zoom them, but you could find out from everybody if there's anybody that's opposed to that. If that way, you could have them all in the meeting without Zooming them. If they're all willing to come to the building. But then again, what happens anybody's coming to the meeting to make a presentation has to come there anyway.
I think that we're probably spending a lot more time on this than we need to. I think that ABCs should be able to make their own decision. If they wish to stay on Zoom, if they wish to do a hybrid, I suspect that most of them will stay on Zoom. It's very convenient to do that. But I think what Rick is saying is we need to have a motion. So I would make a motion to suggest that we hold a hybrid meeting, a combination Zoom and public meeting. It would be optional for supervisors to attend in person or on Zoom.
Or any board member,
or any other
authority board member commission.
authority.
If they
Okay.
want to come here.
So any of the ABCs could do the same thing.
Right.
And
And the public will call
the
in.
public will call in,
I think that's a big point. What does the public do?
call in.
Are the people, can I, just a clarification, on the people that are in the building, like tonight, it's John and Michelle, are they going to be participating in real life form, or are they going to be participating on Zoom, but they're going to be in the building?
No, we're all on Zoom, Marty.
We're on Zoom right now, Marty.
It's like almost a technicality that we're at the office rather than.
Yeah, I'm saying right now we're Zooming everything because it's just it doesn't matter where you are. You could be down a seashore if you wanted to be.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to hold the hybrid meetings with public call-in until circumstances change. Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Is anybody in the audience anybody supervisor want to make a comment? Is there anybody in the Susan that wants to make a comment with you?
They're all unmuted.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a couple of questions about this, if I may.
Go ahead.
That's
Right
right.
again. So what I'm hearing is that you're going to do a hybrid meeting, and if it is going to be only hybrid where you can only have maybe 19 people show up at the building because of social distancing. Is that correct?
No.
No.
What it means is that some of the supervisors or authority members, ABC members, could be at the building with the staff members participating in the meeting via Zoom. If the public wants to participate, they have to call in over the phone line.
Okay. So what are you going to do about the type of meeting where you're talking about this T&D like it happened in the middle of December of last year? How are you going to handle that?
Same way.
Good question.
Pardon me?
That's a good question. You're going to have to go to school.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to handle things that people are so concerned about? All of a sudden they show up at the building and you can't have the meeting.
Well, no, it wouldn't be scheduled. We know you can't do that because there's too many people that would come to that meeting for the to have that. So you have to go to school, but you may still be doing the distancing thing down at school, which means the availability of the school isn't near as great as it was when we were doing either the Sunoco things or other things. It could
Right.
be cut down to no more than like 100 people.
So based on that, based on the December meeting, you had over 200 people. So
Well,
would
that's
you say
right.
that?
That's right.
Let me finish,
thought-
Marty. So so you couldn't have that meeting either. So are you going to say that until we get to the green and all clear zone, that we're not going to be able to talk about this T&D anymore?
I don't think you're going to be able to talk about any of these controversial things until you get this thing the virus thing resolved.
Russ,
So they're going to be tabled for the time being.
Russ, if I might, Mike Lynch, what I'd like to offer is that I think as a board, we've mused about so-called controversial topics. And I think as a board, we are interested to try and work with staff and our public to maintain our ongoing operations and the basic decisions that have to be made to operate the local government services and the decisions for authorization for spending, et cetera, that have to occur. But that any item that is not a mandatory item where we have to act upon it, such as the TND or other matters that are more discretionary, that we are going to hold off on any of those until we resume a normal state and we're back in the building where we can have full participation in a public setting. So that's the sense that I think we have amongst the board. So that a controversial topic like the TND, I know I wouldn't support it being on the agenda anytime until we're normalized, and I'll leave it to my colleagues, any other thoughts they might have.
I'm with Mike as far as the T&D concerns, but the other ones are, we got it hanging out there. We have the Malvern Institute, which I think could be done, maybe, because it depends upon how many people come to the meeting because of you got that limitation.
Right.
And I'm not sure, I forget I think there was a third one, wasn't there?
Well, but as an example of the Malvern Institute, Marty, and folks, that we may be under a particular protocol regimen to act upon that. There could be timeframes, et cetera, that we have to be cognizant of, and irrespective of whether that one is controversial or not. That is that's an Act 247 proceeding, and we may have to act in a timely manner unless there are time extensions, et cetera. So that one is a little bit of a variant to something that is a discretionary item, like a planning matter of, say, the TND, from my perspective.
All voices have now been received, or are either.
Can I speak? It's Christina.
Sure.
Okay. So I understand that the motion says that the public at this point would still be calling in over the phone. So that's where I would fall. But as we do move forward, or if we do have a scenario where we're utilizing a school or another larger venue, I would just like some reassurance that the township would be strictly enforcing a mask rule, and that because I would like to eventually come back in public and join you all, but I don't want to be caught up in some situation where, people are not wearing masks, or they're inappropriately wearing their mask under their nose, and this whole mess. So I think it needs to be stated whenever we do have a public gathering that masks are required. If for some reason a person cannot wear a mask for a medical reason, then they need to participate virtually. I think that's one thing. And then secondly, just as a thought that I was having as this discussion was going on, was that one challenge we might encounter going forward was a situation that I encountered a number of times when I came to the township meetings a little bit late, and the door was often locked downstairs. So if we have a situation, even though I rang the bell, it seems like nobody was hearing it or nobody came to let me in. So if there's a situation where it's just Michelle in there, or it's just John and Michelle in there, it's going to be very difficult for them to get up in the middle of a public meeting and go down and let somebody in. So I think these are just some logistical things that we need to be thinking about, so that people aren't inadvertently left out or locked out of meetings.
Yeah, those are some good comments, Christina. Some details that are worth paying real attention to down the road if we do move into that setting. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it needs to be on the radar, because it seems like eventually we'll be moving there. But right now, I also have no interest in participating any other way than virtually at this point. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with the virtual thing. I think the residents got to do the virtual thing.
Okay.
I don't see how you can avoid. It's almost impossible to do that, so that to set the rules that everybody's going to be happy with.
All right. So we got a motion out there, right? We're ready to go?
Yep. Yeah. All those. Well, John kind of made it. John, do you want to repeat what you made?
The motion, Michelle made a motion and John seconded it, to continue to hold hybrid meetings for all ABC groups with public call in until the COVID situation improves.
Okay, does everybody understand the meeting?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 5-0, John, thank you very much. The next item is the sewer rates for next year, well, this year and next year. John, do you want to give it a little summary of that?
Sure, I'm recommending that the board adopt sewer rates for the next 3 quarters of $32.41 fixed per quarter and $9.13 per 1,000 gallons as a variable rate. At those rates, the average bill would be $152.62 compared with about $146 now. That average bill is important because that's what we charge both new residents when they first move in, as well as houses with that are on a well.
Is that yearly or?
That is per quarter.
Per quarter.
The biggest driver of this increase wasn't really the underlying costs as much as it was a drop in consumption. There was a modest drop on the residential consumption side between the previous winter and then the winter before that. But the biggest drop really was around on the commercial side. Because of COVID, we saw commercial consumption drop by 39%. I'd estimated 40%, but I was almost exactly right. It was 39%. So because of that, but I do expect that commercial consumption will creep back up as more and more people return to work. So it made it really hard to sort of run the numbers this year. If I had just tried to fully recover costs based on the data that I had, the increase in the average bill would have been over 10%. And what I'd sort of proposed doing, because we have close to $1 million in fund balance in the sewer fund, and I don't want to get it too far below $1 million. That's roughly 25% or 25 to 30% of our annual expenditures.
Yep.
I wanted to sort of split the difference there so that residents don't feel this sort of one-time shock of a 10 or 11% increase, and instead go up basically half of the way up to fully recover costs. At the rates that I'm proposing, we'd need to draw down about $82,000 this year in the sewer fund balance. But as I said, we have $1 million, so $82,000 is, roughly 8% of that. If you turn over to the next page, you'll see that over the last, our rates still were well below where Willistown and Westtown are. We're sort of bunched together with Westchester and East Whiteland. I do expect West Goshen's rates will be going up as all of their debt service comes due. I suspect some of the other ones that have really low rates, also like West Whiteland, Tradifton, will also experience some increases. So we're sort of par for the course as far as what our sewer rates are.
John, may I ask one question?
Sure.
If and as you mentioned, the driver here has been the decreased consumption. If consumption increases, water usage increases, it goes through the system, would that play against that $84,000 or whatever and drop that number down? Or
yeah, absolutely would.
Yeah. Okay.
If I can just make a point, I'm poking around a little bit to see where our sewer rates were even back in 2016. Mm-hmm. And back in 2016, the fixed for right around this time of year, the fixed rate was $30 and some change, and the cost per 1,000 gallons was in the neighborhood of 7. So it's not like these numbers are. I mean, considering that's been about a 4-year difference.
Yeah, we've been
pretty slow to raise this rate.
Yeah, we were able to keep it pretty level for five or so years now.
So I don't like the idea of going as much as 10% of an increase. I think that's too much right now. I do like the idea of maybe splitting the difference though.
And
Yeah,
that,
I want to thank John. John did a lot of work on this. I've had some conversation with John before this, and David did too, as the finance committee. I just want to say that I appreciate the board, because I think everybody said something, and it looks like everybody's in agreement. I am personally not on the sewer system, but at the same time, I think a 10% or a little over 10% increase is just not acceptable. And I'm very glad that John did the work to come up with an alternative to that. And I think, John, the alternative that you have with respect to the basic rate, the average rate, what is the percent increase in that? Do you know? Because I think that's what people are really interested in.
It's over the current bill, it's 4.5%.
Okay, and I thought that's about what it was. To me, when you're able to come up to something that's less than 5%, it's a real winner. So I'm very enthusiastic. Well, I'm not enthusiastic about the fact that you have to raise the rate, but the fact that it's less than 5% to me is very good. Is a really nice hard work that John did, and I want to thank him.
yep, thank you, John.
If everybody has made a comment, is there anybody comment from the group, from the visitors? Susan, how about your pack? Is they
John.
all right?
I just unmuted everybody, but we don't have a motion, right?
Yeah,
John,
There's
I
a
would like
motion
to,
on the floor.
no, we don't. I'd like to make
Oh,
a
we-
motion that we adopt resolution 2020-34A, which is to reflect the amendment of the sewer rates.
I second the motion.
Oh, John got it.
Is anybody on the board have any comments?
No.
I don't think so. Susan, does anybody of your folks have a comment?
yeah,
Go ahead.
I do. It's Russ again. John.
Yep.
Since you kind of split this difference to the 4.5% raise, how do can your crystal ball say that next year it's going to be 12% raise because we cut back so much this year?
Oh,
Or is that
Well,
too
no,
far out to
I mean,
look about?
actually, Russ, we would expect, I mean, what we would expect is what Mike alluded to, is that consumption starts to go back up.
Right.
As more of those business parks, start to be full, and the YMCA is open, that's a big one. That's our single
Right.
biggest user of
Okay.
sewer system. So, yeah, I don't think like a 12% increase, who knows with COVID and what's going to happen, but
Right.
if life returns to normal, then no, I wouldn't expect that.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Russ.
Anybody else?
I did a calculation, very sophisticated calculation, and the increase is equal to a grande no whip mocha frappuccino at Starbucks.
Okay, everybody ready? All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
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 Is there anybody opposed? Thank you very much, John. 5-0. The next item on the agenda is the nuisance ordinance, and I know that the author of that is in our audience. Rick and I had, and well, others too for that matter, have had a conversation about this, and I think the conclusion was that you did a lot of work, Christina, on this, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We think that we're going to, before we make a decision, we probably best ask our solicitor what she thinks about this and how she would go about it if it's appropriate to go about it. So, and I think that's a pretty good suggestion. I don't think it would take that long to do that, but once we get that information, then we could come back and let everybody know what it is. That would be my suggestion. Well, it's actually Ricky's suggestion, but I think it's a good one.
Are we going to let Christina talk about what she was thinking on this, or?
She can. Yeah, there's no. I think there's no problem with that. I mean, I think everybody has kind of exercised due diligence in this thing, and I think it would behoove everybody. If Christina wants to summarize, that's fine. I think at the end of the day, we're going to probably take Ricky's suggestion, I would hope, and and talk to our solicitor and see where that leads us. But
So-
Christine, if you want to say something, go ahead and say something.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. So the reason that this was brought up was because there continues to be discussion on Nextdoor surrounding the noises, the vibrations, the hammering, and the basic ongoing disturbances that the residents are experiencing. And so I posted a response on Nextdoor, and I said that I would put this on the agenda for discussion at our last pipeline task force meeting. And I did quite a bit of research on the topic of public nuisance. And what I found was quite encouraging, because when you look at what the definition of a public nuisance is, it really fits the bill of what has been occurring here in the township on an ongoing basis for years. It is any infraction upon the public's ability and right to enjoy their own private property and their home. It is an infraction upon the public peace, the public comfort, and it really describes that it encompasses any project or business, whether it is properly permitted or regulated, but when operations of that business create a condition that then affects the general public beyond their own business area, then that constitutes a public nuisance. And what we have been experiencing here has been affecting people's ability to enjoy their backyards, to do work within their own homes, to sleep. They've been experiencing headaches. As we've heard Bill Wegeman talk about how his home has been coated with dust, and really just the list goes on. As you all know, there's been multiple spills. These spills have not only happened on public property, but have spilled into people's yards, which recently happened over in Bowtree. We know that there was another spill over here in Marydale, and that fluid is classified as industrial waste. And so when you take all of this together, what you're really seeing is this picture of what is our zones that are residential zones, which are experiencing industrial impacts on a daily basis, on a repeated basis, on an ongoing basis that stretches on for years. And so when you look at the permits which have been issued, there are public nuisance references in there. And the township has the ability, it's clear, it's written out there, that when a business like Sunoco is operating in a manner which creates a public nuisance, the township has the ability to order them to cease operating in that manner and to rectify or mitigate the condition which is causing the nuisance. So we're not talking about when Rick says, oh, well, it costs a lot of money to cite them and, we just recover the fee. That is completely different than what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you issue them a citation under the public nuisance aspects of it, and you tell them you cannot continue this hammering. You have to find some other way to install your pipe that does not involve hammering and vibrations and these loud noises that exceed our noise ordinance. And if you cannot do that, then you lose your permit. And all of that is clearly written out within that stormwater management permit. And so what I'm asking the township to do is to be more aggressive in protecting the health, the safety, the livelihood of the residents, and exercising the rights that are given to you in the code, in the township code, in the ordinances, and you have this ace in your pocket, which is that you are the issuer of the permit. And if they don't comply with that and they don't find different ways to conduct their business in this township, then you pull the permit. It's that simple. And when you look at the permit, as Ricky said, there were 21 conditions that they had to meet, and he will tell you, and they met them all, but they didn't. The last two specifically said that Pannoni wrote on there that they were going to struggle to meet sound, vibrations, and the noise ordinances, and they have not met those. They have not stayed within those parameters. And so far, we've just, within our discretion, allowed them to get away with that. We've issued a couple of citations for the noises, but we haven't done anything about the hammering and the vibrations. So the residents are begging for relief. And so what we, as the Pipeline Task Force, are asking for is for the township to be stricter and stronger in enforcing the noise, the public nuisance aspect of it. And I can tell you from all the research that I've done that the Pennsylvania nuisance law absolutely is on our side. Pennsylvania courts have upheld actions to be a public nuisance that consider bad odors, smoke, dust, vibration, loud and disturbing noises. Those all fall under public nuisance of the public peace and the public comfort. It's all right there. We just haven't exercised it.
I think that, Christina, I don't think it's worth, I think there's a number of questions that have to be addressed to a solicitor. And it may be everything's okay or not okay. I have no idea. I know I spent a lot of time educating myself on this whole thing, and I'm sure the others did too. But I think it would be prudent for us, not necessary for you, but prudent for us to get Kristen's opinion of this, because I think there's more to this than just the fact that we have the ordinance and we have the right to do this and all that kind of stuff. I think you start getting involved in a number of other things, and the question becomes is how involved do you really get, or is as a public utility, are they exempt to certain things? I don't have any idea. I mean, I have more questions than I can possibly think than I want to think about tonight. In fact, I don't remember them all because I wrote them down. I kept them at home. But I think I've shared my thoughts. I don't know what the other
Just remember, in the latest ruling in Lebanon County, that court reiterated that the PUC never made a ruling on their public utility status. Sunoco has only gotten this far because everybody goes by the assumption that they are a public utility. So put that one aside. And I think that you have to start having more confidence in the fact that you do have abilities that are built into the municipal code. And Sunoco is just betting on the fact that you're not going to use them. And it's the same thing, and I just want to go back, because David has brought this up before about those noise barriers and how they were basically using moving blankets. And it was only until we told them you need to do better that they put in better sound barriers. And it's the same thing with the hammer drills. I believe that there are better technologies out there that have less sound and lower vibrations, but they're not using them. And until you tell them that you cannot be hammering and causing these vibrations that are felt for, half a mile, then they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. But you have to tell them. You have to send them a letter that says this is not acceptable. This is a public nuisance. You need to change it. You need to mitigate it, or we're pulling your permit. Then you're going to see some change.
I don't disagree with what you're saying in the sense of what the impacts have been. I'm saying that if we're going to go forward with this, the solicitor is going to be the one that does this. So you got to give the solicitor a chance to share what her thoughts are on this, yes, because I don't know that she's even aware of this. So until that happens, I don't know if we could move forward. I've said my piece, so I don't need to say more.
Can I-
What's the rest of the board think?
I would like to thank Christina for, great write-up and her research on this. I don't think anybody researches the way she does, and I admire her work. And I thought she was very articulate this evening. And I think the board agrees, hopefully, that the next move is to really see if we have a legal footing to stand on based on the research that Christina has done. So I just want to thank her for her work, and then make that recommendation, and we go forward with
Yeah. I
sharing this
appreciate that,
idea
David.
with Christina.
You're not making a motion, are you?
No,
Are you making a
I'm
motion?
just stating
Okay,
my
well,
piece.
let's hear from everybody while we're at it. If anybody.
I concur 100% with David. Christina,
Okay, who's
really nice.
that,
work.
Mike?
I concur with Christina, really nice, or with David, really nice work, Christina, much appreciated. And I think a solicitor would be our next best advice to see what we can do from here at this stage in the game. And I'm gonna throw this one to Rick. When I hear that the Energy Transfer Partners is not a public utility, what's your response to that, Rick? I mean, we've been letting them operate for 3 years and they're not a public utility. I've been misreading things.
In the court case that Christina referenced, Sunoco initially applied to the municipality, initially applied to the PUC for the exemption to put up a building.
Right.
And subsequently went to the municipality. The municipality sent it to the zoning hearing board, which granted them the permit. The citizens group appealed the issuance of that permit. I went to Commonwealth Court, and they ruled that the zoning hearing board acted incorrectly and that the permit was no longer valid. After Sunoco had got the approval from the zoning hearing board, they withdrew their petition to the PUC asking for a certificate of need. So the PUC therefore did not have to rule on whether or not they had the standing or any of that type of stuff. And obviously the Supreme Court denied the petition. However, if you go back and look at the West Goshen case, there's a couple condemnation cases. The Commonwealth Court has determined that the Sunoco is a public utility, and I would just evidence that by there's a certificate on our website that the PUC granted to Sunoco back in recently. So I know as far as I know, they're a public utility.
Well, if they weren't a public utility, why would the PUC have been involved all these months and years with the interaction that we've had with them, let alone everything else? What if they're not a public utility? What the heck is the Public Utility Commission doing being involved with them at all? I mean, that's
Mike.
They are public
Mike.
utility, and that's why people have to take their somebody that has an issue with them has to take their complaint to the PUC.
Mike, they were a public utility when Mariner 1 was pumping westward, when it was pumping petroleum westward. But the argument was made that when they repurposed it and they changed the flow eastward and they changed the product, that was that was an action that made them lose the public utility status, and they were no longer serving the public. And the PUC, because they, as Rick said, because they withdrew from that case, the PUC never issued a ruling on whether they continue to be a public utility today.
Well, after 3 years, I am totally confused then now at this point.
You're totally confused.
Am I the only one?
You want to go?
Go, you go.
I'll go. Christina, I want to re-echo David's comments. The work you do is amazing. And I think that. At the same time, I'm reading the text we have here, and the enforcement section puts enforcement of the ordinances on the township manager. That's Rick, and he has broad shoulders, thank God. He has said to us I would like to go and talk to outside counsel before I act on this. It's hard to argue with him. He's here day to day and he runs the township. It's hard to argue with him when he asks for outside counsel. I would suggest that if Rick could live with it, maybe you ought to come in and sit with the outside counsel too. The two of you, it's been 35 years since I was in law school and I can't quote a case anymore. The two of you are throwing case law back and forth and I'm amazed. I feel sorry for Kristen if she has to sit in it. But that's what I think we should do. I think we should get her in there and Rick has asked for that. So I'm very reluctant to say no to him since he's charged with the enforcement. And if he wouldn't mind, it wouldn't bother me if you came in and sat with them.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
I would be pleased to do that if it's allowable.
It's up to Rick.
Yep, I have to say that the work you did on this is tremendous. I really appreciate it, Christina. I want to bring up a couple things from the minutes of February 23rd, 2016. Just for the record, Dr. McGrath had asked how long the project would take. And Matt Gordon advised that they would be in the township for 6 to 8 months. I think that they well exceeded their nuisance time. He's told us that the HDD machines would operate at 85 decibels and they would use noise curtains to mitigate the noise. Joe Bonono, he actually asked if Sunoco had sovereign immunity and if they would comply with township codes. Don Z from Sunoco Energy Transfer actually said they did not have sovereign immunity and they would comply with all the applicable codes.
There you go.
And so that's back February 23rd, 2016. And I think that that needs to be brought up when if whether it's Rick and Kristen or if you and Kristen sit down to talk, I think that you need to bring that up because they've well exceeded their time here. I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that, first of all, I agree with you 100%, but I did hear from a differing point of view today, which was very intriguing. Unfortunately, the nature of their business is to be a nuisance, and that's the only way they can put the pipe in the ground. So that was an interesting argument from somebody else. I thought that was.
I love that argument because if they are in fact a nuisance, then we do in fact have the power to use these laws against them.
So I just thought that was an interesting thing, and it was just a differing point of view, and it seems to be that I think he was right. I mean, he's got a lot of years of experience living on this earth, and he said he knows what a nuisance is. And so, but yeah, that's the nature of the beast. So thank you for all the work. I kind of have to agree, though, at this point that if Rick needs counsel on this, I think we need to have that opportunity. So that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Everybody on the board has been very solicitous of Christina, and I think we all should be, because it's a lot of work that she put into this. I also believe that we all have thought that at least the solicitor ought to have a shot at this and come back with what she says. So that in mind, I would ask David to make a motion that incorporates that kind of stuff.
Good luck, David.
Good luck, David.
Good luck.
I'd like to make a motion what Marty said. No, I'd like to make a motion that we graciously accept the analysis done by Christina Morley and take and charge our staff to take the issue up with our solicitor.
I second that motion.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Any more comments or questions from the group, Christina, or otherwise?
I have a new caller that I'd like to identify themselves first, please, before we move on.
Okay.
Caller that entered the meeting with phone number ending in 375. Can you please state your name?
Yeah, hi, my name's Tom Weinberg. Hi, everybody. I live in Pin Oak, and I'm across from Bow Tree where that one mutter has not moved in years. So, I just wanted to say that my backyard backs up to 352, so I'm right behind it. And the vibration is just like, it's destroying our family. So I just wanted to, hop on the call to see what was going on because it's been so long. So.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other comment?
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 5-0, John. Thank you very
Susan,
much.
could you include his comments in the minutes, please?
John's doing the minutes, but I'm sure he'll include them. Yes.
Okay, thank you, John.
Tom's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Christina. And Tom, thanks for your piggyback comment there. Appreciate it very much. That'll be, as indicated, reflected in the minutes. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is item E for those that are following the agenda, and that's to consider an irrevocable letter of credit for closeout of 1662 East Boot Road, which I will tell you it is very close to Mr. Smith's
Hey,
house.
Marty, we skipped the O&M, the stormwater.
Did I miss one? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right, John. We need to consider, we need to approve the chairman to sign a couple of stormwater management agreements. Anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll move that we authorize the chairman to sign the stormwater O&M agreement for 1603 Highland Avenue and 1258 Upton Circle.
Is there a second?
Is that also, just to clarify, there's also a 932 Cornwallis?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add that to the motion.
I'll second it.
Is there any comments from the board members, from the audience? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 5-0, John. Thank you for the reminder. Now we can do the irrevocable letter of credit for the closeout of 1662. David, do you want to start us with a motion to that effect? Then we can have comments.
Yeah, I'll move that we release the funds for credit number 4, final closeout for 1662 East Boot Road.
A
Is there
second.
a second? Does anybody have any comments?
No.
I would say that with Mark and Pannoni doing so much evaluation of this, that I have no problem with closing this out. But it means that everything's closed out, that they've done all the work that they said they were going to do is finished.
That's correct.
Ricky, do you have anything to add to that, Ricky?
The houses are done and occupied. Complete.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
No.
Anybody in the audience have any comments? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay? None? 5-0, John. Thank you. The next is an escrow release. It's a final closeout of 1664, which is obviously the second house. Is there a motion to that effect, David?
Yes, I'd like to move that we release the escrow number 4, final closeout for lot 2, 1664 East Boot Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Same comment, Ricky?
Correct. The house is occupied. It's done.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none,
No
all those
comment.
did somebody have a comment?
No.
No.
No comment, no.
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? 5-0. Thank you very much. That concludes everything. As if there's any other matter, I'm not aware of it. Does anybody have any other matter?
I have one other matter, but it's not what we, go ahead.
Well, there was discussion concerning a potential overbilling. Well, the county identified, as you know, some potential overbilling
yes.
by the law firm that represented both the county and the township for the PUC and the Flynn matter last year. I've looked over all of the bills that law firm billed us for. There was never an issue of the law firm overbilling us on an hourly rate. So there was not that issue. However, I did have an opportunity to speak with the county controller and sort of drill down a little bit more on some of the potential double billing issues. And so Rick and I have a call scheduled for next Monday with that attorney, and we're going to review some of those concerns with a fine-tooth comb and hopefully have something to report back at the following next meeting.
Just out of curiosity, are we have to pay her for that time?
Well, we already did pay the bill. The bill was approved back in February or something.
But I mean, are we gonna have to pay her for that time that you're gonna meet with her?
Well, we certainly wouldn't pay the bill if she tried to bill us. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? John, that's good work, because it's so fast, because I know we just were talking about that.
And I
It
do
was,
have,
for those that are interested, it was in the paper over the weekend, and it did get, and we were mentioned in there, as a matter of fact. So, does anybody else have any other matter?
yeah, I
So
actually-
John, are you saying that you did find some double billing?
Well, I talked to I'm sorry, Margaret Reef, and she identified some of the concerns that we had. So we need to drill down with Margaret Morris and making sure that the revised bill that the county got is consistent with what we have paid, and if not, get some sort of refund.
Okay, because from what I read in the paper, they didn't issue a refund, they issued a credit.
Well, yeah, we're not going to be using that law firm probably, so I'll make that point clear. So.
Okay,
I don't know what
thank
the
you.
county's plans are. I can't speak for them, but I think I can for the township.
Right.
I have something under another matter, and I just actually came up with this afternoon. I was talking to Tom Killian, and I was specifically requesting information about pipeline safety bills and their status. And he said that actually Chris Quinn has a bill, House Bill 2293, that passed the House, 202 votes to none. It's been passed over to the Senate committee. So he, and Tom Killian is actually on that committee. Tom has a bill referred to as Senate Bill 284, and he's going to be amending a number of the line items in that Senate bill into House Bill 2293, because 2293 is the best vehicle to actually get a pipeline safety bill passed through the Senate and back over to the House for concurrence this year. This would be a pipeline safety you'd have to look at the specifics. I don't have all the specifics written out, but it will be a bill that will require pipeline operators to help provide a safety plan, evacuation plan for municipalities. But to make sure that you all knew that that was on the radar for this fall.
That's a good update. That's good, Michelle. I'm pleased to hear that one of the bills at least is making its way deep into the legislative process. Good for you.
Tom's really pushing this one through. He really is excited because 2293 actually has a lot of the components of some of his other bills as well. So he's really excited about it.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a good update.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate that. Is there any,
Yes.
Susan, it's time for the public comment, if there is any.
Okay.
I have a question I want to ask before you get to the
Mike,
public comment. And it is after the public comment, but a particular regard, Rick and John, to the notice of from Aqua on the work that they're going to be doing on Ellis Lane. My question is, they've got about almost a mile worth of excavation and work they're going to be doing in the roadway, as they've indicated. Do we know what their plan is for the restoration of the road after they do that? Are they going to be resurfacing the entire half cartway direction or the entire road? They're not just going to patch it. Do we know what their plan is for that?
There'll be a full mill on the half of the cartway out from the high school all the way up to Stroudsburg Road.
Okay, that's typically what they do, Mark. Thanks for that update. So they're essentially going to resurface the road on at least the one side of the cartway.
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right, that's all I had. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
How about the, Susan, how about your friends up there?
We only have one person left in the public, and Christina, do you have anything else?
I was just gonna ask Michelle, could you just send a note to Caroline about that pipeline safety bill?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna send a nice email to her.
Thank you.
Where are we here?
We're done.
No, we're not. Nice try. Liaison reports.
We're still with Susan. I know.
We
Mike
don't have
is-
anybody else left in the public, Marty.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, now we're done. There's no correspondence or anything else. Does John or Ricky have anything?
There is correspondence.
Well, I would reference the one for Aqua. There's the right to know that there was an update. There are only 2 right to know requests, I think. And there was the nice note from one of the residents. I think it left the township thanking Mark Miller in Public Works. That was nice. And the request, that's just a formality. The request from Goshen Fire Company for the annual contribution, pay their payroll. And that's in the budget. So that's about all there is, right, guys? Am I off base there?
No, that's all I got.
Motion or anything for
Just
that.
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Okay, unless there's something else from Ricky or John, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I motion that we adjourn for the evening.
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Peace out.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.